Right, here we go. Check these out. My twist on traditional Easter buns. These are chocolate caramel and orange hot cross buns. Absolutely amazing. Served with an umami rich miso, tahini and orange butter. These are sensational. Okay, let's make some caramel. There's a full recipe on Studio Kitchen for this. We're going to whiz past it now. We're going to get a hot pan and we're going to add sugar and we're going to melt it until it's a deep amber colour. Then we're going to deglaze that pan with hot cream that's got vanilla inside. We're going to add glucose, honey and salt to our pan and lots of butter. We're going to make this in a pan that's big enough for it to boil up, and we're going to cook this caramel to a temperature of 118 degrees. Going to be really careful, it's so hot. Get this caramel out and into an oven-proof dish lined with paper, and we're going to leave it on the bench to cool down. It's going to take a while before we cut it into these amazing inclusions that we're going to put inside our buns. Right, let's get started on the dough. So this is a pre-dough starter, so a small paste that's going to help to activate your dough. We're going to put strong flour, skim milk powder and sugar into a bowl, add our dried activated yeast and just give it a bit of a mix. Make sure there's no lumps in there before adding some lukewarm water. Just add a little bit at a time at the start just to get rid of all those lumps before adding in all of the water and giving it a really good mix. And that's it, simple. We're going to cover this with a tea towel and we're going to leave it in a warm place. Now this could take anywhere between 20 minutes to an hour for it to double in size. Okay, next we're going to cut our candied orange into small pieces that we're going to add inside our dough. You can use store-bought candied orange. I've actually made my own. It's really simple to make, and this is going to add a great citrus punch to your buns. Really bright and fresh, chewy, sweet, absolutely delicious, and I love these in my buns. Back to the bun dough. Now our starter has doubled in size. Look at the size of that. It didn't take long, but my kitchen was quite warm, so just have a little check, and if it's not quite up, then give it a little bit longer. You're going to pour it into a bowl, and then we're going to add our strong flour on top of that. Cocoa powder next, before adding our spices. We've got 3 spices: cinnamon, nutmeg and clove. And next we're going to add the sugar. We're going to add salt as well. Make sure you don't put the salt on top of the starter because that could affect it. Then add an egg and then our softened butter. Give this a mix by hand. So I'm just doing this gently at the start, and I'm just trying to eradicate any lumps from the flour, and I'm mixing in the cocoa powder and the sugar and the salt into the flour before I actually get in there and get all of that wet ingredient in and start making a dough. So this is great just to get your hands in. You could do this on a electric stand mixer. You would add a dough hook, but I thought I would show you how to make it by hand so you could see exactly how easy it is. And what I'm doing is I'm holding the bowl with one hand, keeping one hand clean, and I'm just using the other hand just to start to pull all of those ingredients together and just gently start to form it into a dough. The egg's just broken there, as you can see, so I'm just going to scrape that around the sides and just using my one hand to pull this together into a dough. As you can see, it's starting to form sort of lumps, a bit of a paste. There's still flour on the sides of the bowl there. We're going to start to get all of that flour and all of those ingredients mixed really evenly together. And I'm doing this just inside of the bowl here because I don't want it to make too much of a mess on my bench. And when it does come together, then I pour the whole thing out onto my workbench, and I use both hands now and I just start to bring this together into a dough. Once it comes together into a dough, I start to pull off all those bits that I've got on my fingers and onto the bench, and I start adding it into the dough before gently kneading it. And as you can see, it's really come together already. It's only been happening now for a couple of minutes, and I'm just getting all of those ingredients scooped up, and I'm lifting up the dough and I'm pushing it with the palm of my hand, pushing it back out and just kneading that dough. I'm trying to activate the gluten in the strong flour so we can get a nice firm bun dough. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a workout. This would be a lot quicker if you did it on an electric stand mixer fitted with a dough hook, but I thought I would do it by hand because why not? And like I say, it is a bit of a workout. It's very therapeutic to get in there and start making your own dough, so this is a really good way to start. I'm just folding it over and I'm giving it a good workout now, just starting to fold over the dough and then push it back. And what I'm doing is just working that gluten, trying to get this dough a nice even consistency and trying to get it smoothish and a nice tight dough. I've been doing this for a little while now and it's not too hard. You can get in and do this. This is really great for you to do. Pushing the dough down now. As you can see, it's come together. You can't see any lumps of flour in there or any other ingredients, so I know that all of the ingredients have mixed really well together inside that dough. And all I'm doing now is just going to mix it for a few minutes just to make sure that it starts getting nice and smooth and becomes a nice tight ball of dough. It's become a lot smoother now. I've been working it for another few minutes and I'm just lifting it up, and as you can see, using either my fist or the palm of my hand to push it together. I'll roll it into a dough, and once I've got a ball, I'll put it into a bowl, cover it with tea towel. I'm just going to rest this for 10 minutes. And it's now time to add the fun bits into our chocolate, caramel and orange hot cross buns. This is fantastic. So I'm just pushing the dough out now, and I'm going to add my chocolate buttons. I'm actually using a really dark cocoa heavy milk chocolate here. It's a really nice milk chocolate, nothing too sweet, but you could use dark chocolate buttons. I would like to use buttons in there, but if you didn't have buttons, you could use a block, but you need to chop it into small pieces. Add the chocolate onto the dough before adding those cut pieces of candied orange, and make sure you kind of put them sparsely across the dough. Don't throw them all in together because you'll get this big lump of candied fruit that will stick together, and it'll be really hard for you to kind of distribute that evenly in the dough. So I'm just putting it in there carefully before folding it over and then using my hands to press it down, and I'm just scooping up all of that chocolate on the bench and pushing down my dough and just giving it another fold, just trying to distribute all of that chocolate and orange inside the dough. Next, I've got my caramel pieces. Now, I did put my caramel in the fridge just before I did this, so it's nice and hard, but if you cooked your caramel correctly, you'll have a really nice sort of chewy caramel consistency. And I've cut them nice and big so that when I do actually bake these buns, I'm going to have big pockets of caramel inside my dough. Going to add all of that caramel onto the dough, and again I'm kind of just distributing it and folding it over and pushing it down and making sure that all of the caramel has been distributed nice and evenly. It's not all just in one clump. Adding the caramel now. We're almost there, and I'm packing lots of flavour into these buns. Absolutely sensational. As these buns cook, that caramel will just start to melt. You'll have these amazing pockets of this chewy salted caramel inside your buns, as well as the melted chocolate, and then you've got that added lift from the candied orange. So it really is an absolute treat. Of course, we've got spice in there, and that goes really well with all of those inclusions as well. All right, I just snuck a bit of caramel, you saw there. I'm just still chewing it. Pushing the dough down onto the bench. I've got lots of inclusions here, so it is a little bit tricky to work with. It's a little bit harder to work with than a normal hot cross bun dough. That's because the inclusions are quite a lot bigger. But I'm happy with that now, just forming it into a ball, and I'm going to place it back into that bowl, cover it with a tea towel, and we're going to leave this for the first proof. Okay, check it out, taken the tea towel off. It's sort of doubled in size, it's nice and light and airy. It's absolutely a dream to work with, and look at all of those amazing inclusions inside. Bits falling out all over the place. Make sure you catch them, make sure you push them back in, because you don't want to miss any of that goodness. Okay, grab a knife, grab some scales, and we're going to scale this dough into 12 equal balls. And I've worked out this dough is approximately about 110 grams per bun. So these buns are quite big, but they are laden full of this amazing ingredients inside. I think my normal hot cross buns, I usually go about 90 grams. We're going a little bit bigger here because we've got all of those pieces inside. We're going to cut off all of the dough and weigh them off, and you should have 12 equal sized balls of dough at the end of it. Bench is getting a little bit dirty. Don't worry too much about that. Just make sure you scale them off nice and evenly. And when you get to the last one, you might have to adjust the dough, and you might have to steal some from another ball just to make sure you've got 12 equal sized balls. I've got a tray, oven-proof tray, and I've lined it with paper. And I'm going to grab each ball and just put it onto a workbench, lightly flour it because it can get a little bit sticky, and that's the caramel coming out. And also if you overwork it, the chocolate will start to melt. And you just gently form them into balls. Put them onto the tray, and I'm going to arrange these 3 by 4, so we're going to have 12 balls packed close-ish together. They're almost touching but not quite. Remember, these are going to proof, so then they will expand and start to touch each other, and then you'll have that amazing tray of buns when they come out of the oven. As you can see, really easy to ball, and there's no particular way of doing it. I'm actually using the palm of my hand. I'm using my right hand because I'm right-handed, and I'm just forming them into balls and placing them onto the tray really carefully. I'm doing 3 at the top of the tray, and then another 3, and then I will do another row of 3, finished by the last row of 3. That will give me 12 balls on this tray. Really is fantastic making your own hot cross buns, or just baking at home really does give me loads of joy. So hopefully you're going to love this process as well. Putting them on to the tray, we're almost done now. As you can see, the bench is kept fairly clean. I'm just using light dusting of flour just to make sure that it doesn't stick to the bench, and I'm happy with that. I've got 12 equal sized balls, and I'm just going to cover them with the tea towel, and we're going to go for the second proof. Look at that, we're a little bit later now. You can see the light streaming in from the afternoon sun. Beautiful. They've doubled in size. I've taken the tea towel off, and I've just got egg wash now. I'm just going to brush gently on top of the buns a little bit of the egg wash, and that's just going to give it a bit of a shine when it's inside the oven. I'm using a soft brush for this, and I'm making sure I don't damage any of those buns. And they are almost ready to go in the oven. Look at that. My oven's been preheated, and we're going to whack them inside. While the buns are baking, let's make that butter. It's sensational, umami rich, loads of flavour. I've got white miso paste, I've got honey, I've got tahini paste, and I've also got some softened butter. Actually, it's a little bit melted there because it's quite warm, but it's softened butter. You want to make sure that it's not too cold because you need to blitz this up and get all of those ingredients mixed well together. A nice lift of citrus, so using a microplane, finely grate some orange zest into your little bowl on top of all of those ingredients. Try and get all of that zest off there. It really does give it a lovely lift. It smells absolutely sensational. Whiz it up, only a couple of minutes before this is ready. And because it's soft, it mixes really easily. Make sure all of the ingredients are mixed really well together. Butter done. Right, time to check those buns. Smell amazing. Look at that. These smell so good. I wish you could smell them. Buns are done. Didn't take too long to cook. Now I've got some sugar syrup and I'm just brushing the top of the buns with the syrup just to give them a bit of a shine. I'm using a nice soft brush just to go all over each bun with this syrup. It's going to give it a lovely sweet exterior to each of the buns. And this is before we're going to add our chocolate cross. So I've got melted white chocolate here and I've got another little small pastry brush and I'm just painting my cross really sort of rustic style on the outside. I love to paint my cross on my hot cross buns. I do it with my traditional ones as well. It's kind of my little thing. You could say it's chef's signature. And just brushing that white chocolate on top of the warm buns, and it's such good fun. These look fantastic already, and I can tell you the smell is absolutely sensational. The white chocolate I'm just brushing on top. You could use milk chocolate if you want to do a dark brush, or you could even use dark chocolate as well, but I'm using white chocolate just to give that distinctive Easter bun look on top of this tray of freshly baked hot cross buns. All done. Look at that. Fantastic. There's only one thing for it, I reckon. We got to get into these and try them. Check out the caramel on the side of that tray. It's kind of oozed out some of those buns, and you know there's big pockets of caramel in there. Right, get that butter out. I'm doing a bit of a chefy quenelle just onto my plate for a bit of presentation, but there's no airs and graces about this. I'm going to get stuck right in. The buns look fantastic. I don't know if that's enough butter for one bun, but we'll see how we go. We're going to cut these buns in half, and I'm just going to liberally spread with that miso tahini and orange butter. Absolutely fantastic. And look at the steam coming out. Also, look at the pops of colour. You can see candied orange in there. You can see chocolate bits. You can see the caramel. Really is an absolute dream. Right, let's give these a go. Oh yeah, superb. You are going to love these. Give these a go. They are fantastic.